Well, guys, 2019 is coming to a close. It's safe to say I'm probably not going to see any more new releases this year, so the only thing left to do to close out the year is to give you guys my top 15 favorite movies of 2019. I normally do top 10 movies of the year, but for me, 2019 was actually a pretty good year for movies. I made my list of some of my favorite movies and I just couldn't narrow it down to 10. I had to stretch it out to at least 15. And so I'm pretty happy with my list. I'm pretty confident where these spots are, but just like every year, a few disclaimers. First disclaimer, just like every year, I didn't get a chance to see every movie I wanted to see this year. So unfortunately, you're not going to see The Irishman, 1917, or Richard Jewell, movies like that on my list. They're movies that I did want to see, but just couldn't find the time to go see them. And also, please keep in mind that this is my list. There's a reason I title this video my favorite movies of the year, not the best of the year, like what a lot of YouTubers do. Because to me, naming it my favorite movies of the years mean they're my favorite. I'm not saying they're the best. In fact, I disagreed with critics quite a bit this year. So you're going to see some movies on my list that probably didn't get the best critical reviews, but I enjoyed them and I liked them. So please keep that in mind, because I know some of these picks, some people are going to say, why is that on the list? Well, they're my favorites. And since it's 15, I'm not really going to talk about them all that much because I don't want this video to be super long. So with all that being said, let's do my honorable mentions and then we'll get to the actual list. My honorable mentions for this year are The Lego Movie 2, Child's Play, Hobbs and Shaw, Zombieland Double Tap, and Midway. Movies that I thought were pretty good and a lot of fun, just didn't quite make the list for different reasons altogether. So let's get to my actual list, my top 15 favorite movies of 2019. Starting out my list is Rambo: Last Blood. Like I said, I disagreed with critics quite a bit this year, but for me, I really enjoyed Rambo: Last Blood. It doesn't have the best critical score, and there's even fans that hate this movie, but I had a lot of fun with it. I thought it was a bloody great time at the theater. Sylvester Stallone gave one of the best performances I think he's ever given. There's a lot of great stuff to love in this movie, and it was just a fun movie for me. Sure, it's not one of the best movies ever made, but for entertainment value, it was enough for me to put it on the list. Next at number 14 is Shazam. Wow, DC did a better Captain Marvel movie than Marvel did. I really loved Shazam. I've seen it multiple times since it came out in theaters, and it just gets better and better for me. I didn't know anything about Shazam going into it, but now that I've seen this movie, I want to see sequels to this. I want to see a lot more sequels to Shazam. He's funny, it's action-packed, it's heartfelt at the same time too. It's what we want to see from DC on top of the dark aspects of it, or at least that's what I want to see. Shazam surprised the hell out of me, and I kind of want to watch it again. Next at number 13 is a movie I mentioned in my movie catch-up list, and that's Shadow. Wow, was this movie good. This movie was entertaining, brilliantly filmed, well acted, and just kept me invested throughout the entire movie. If you haven't seen Shadow and you're into Chinese movies, martial arts type movies, I would really recommend this. It's a really, really great time, and it makes me want to check out more foreign films like this. Next at number 12 is Us, another movie that really surprised me. The reason Us isn't higher on my list, however, because I've seen people praise this movie, and I agree, this movie is very, very good, but the reason it's not higher on my list is because I haven't really had the urge to go back and rewatch it. Like, I saw it in theaters, and I thought, yeah, that was really, really great. But then I bought the Blu-ray, and I just haven't had the urge to go back and rewatch it. I'm definitely going to rewatch it one day because it's really worth it. But for right now, it's sitting right here on my list because of a lack of rewatchability, at least for me. Coming at number 11 is Toy Story 4, another big surprise. This is the year for surprises for me. I'm not going to lie. I thought Toy Story 4 was going to suck because Toy Story means a lot to me. Toy Story was the first movie I saw as a kid, and then each sequel got better and better for me. And 3 ended perfectly. I thought, what could they do with a 4th movie? And boy, was I surprised, entertained. I was laughing, I was crying, I was entertained. It's everything I wanted from a Pixar movie. Definitely recommend Toy Story 4 if you haven't seen it. Coming in at number 10 is what I view as one of the most underrated movies of the year, and that's Doctor Sleep. Now, people liked Doctor Sleep, especially people who really love The Shining, but I feel like this movie doesn't get the credit it deserves. This movie was way different than The Shining, and I think that's why people thought differently about this movie. I think some people were expecting another The Shining, a psychological horror, and while it does have psychological aspects of it, it's not really focused on that. I love the performances, I love the look of this movie. It's not really scary in like a jump scare aspect, it's more scary, I don't want to say cultic because of the villains of the movie, but it's very unsettling, if that helps. And then the ending stuff at the hotel was fantastic. I really love Doctor Sleep, and I really want to see it again. Coming in at number 9 is John Wick Chapter 3. This series for me just keeps getting better and better. I still think the first one's the best one, but man, did I love John Wick Chapter 3. Of course, the action's phenomenal. Keanu Reeves is perfect as his character. The inclusion of Halle Berry I thought was really cool. She was really awesome in the movie, and I hope she comes back for more entries. And it sets up a fourth movie that, at first I was like, oh, fourth movie, really? Because I wanted to end it in a trilogy. But then the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, okay, yeah, I want to see a fourth movie. For me, John Wick Chapter 3 did everything right. It expanded the John Wick universe in a way that I really liked it. And I can't recommend John Wick 3 enough if you're an action junkie like I am. Okay, here at number 8, we're going to get a bit controversial here, but just remember, this is my favorite movies of the year. At number 8 is Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Now, I acknowledge that The Rise of Skywalker has its problems. The plot is very convoluted. There's some decisions that even after seeing it a second time, I'm just not too sure about. But the reason I put it at number 8 is because I can't deny the fact that I had a very, very great time with this movie. And I think that's why I put it higher up on the list, is to show that you can have problems with a movie, but still be wildly entertained by it. And that's kind of why I put it higher than some of these other entries I mentioned earlier, is because I was really entertained with it, though I acknowledge it has problems. I really love the characters, I love how fast-paced it is, and I like the way it wrapped up. I thought it wrapped up the Skywalker saga pretty decently. For me, The Rise of Skywalker at times is a messy movie, but I can't deny the fact that I was really entertained, and I would definitely go watch it again in a heartbeat. Next at number 7 is Spider-Man: Far From Home. I love Far From Home so much. Everything about it I love. There's one thing that I don't really care for in the movie, but with everything else that goes on in this movie, I could definitely overlook that. It's such a fun movie. I love Tom Holland as Spider-Man, and I love Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio. Jake Gyllenhaal is one of my favorite actors working today. So seeing him as Mysterio, I thought that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. He looks amazing. It sets up the next wave of the MCU, I thought, pretty well. And I'm excited to see what they do next with Spider-Man. Coming in at number 6 is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the most casual movie for me of the year, because I can sit back and watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and also be entertained while cozy. It's weird to explain, but the whole time I was watching it in theaters, I was just relaxed, even though the theater seats in my theater at times could be very uncomfortable. I was very relaxed with this movie. The performances is what sells this movie. Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt were absolutely phenomenal in this movie, and both of them I think should get Oscar nominations. Even Margot Robbie, she wasn't in the movie that much, but what she did in the movie was pretty damn good, and the ending was so cool. I love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It was a movie that when I first saw, I was like, yeah, that was good. I need to think about that a little bit more. And then once I thought about it, it got better and better for me. I love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I would definitely recommend it if you're a movie lover. At number 5, we have Knives Out, the most entertaining movie of the year, according to me. I love Rian Johnson as a director. I love every single cast member in this movie. And just the way it kept me guessing from beginning to end was so great. And the way everything came together towards the end was so well done. I love this movie so much that I want to see more whodunits like this. You know, I know it's kind of a subject in a movie that doesn't really get done that much anymore, but hopefully with the very big success of this movie, we can get more whodunits like this. And please go see this movie in theaters. It's definitely worth it. Next at number 4 is The Lighthouse. Now, I gotta be honest with something. When The Lighthouse ended, I first thought to myself, I don't know how I feel about that. There were some good elements, but it just didn't give me that punch that I wanted after the movie ended. It took a lot of research and a lot of rethinking about the movie to where I thought to myself, wow, that's actually a really, really great movie. And I think a movie that went over people's heads. It does require a lot of thinking and diving deep into some of the symbolism aspects of the movie, but I think once you piece it together, things start to make sense, and then you think to yourself, I was looking too much into it because it's deep down a kind of simple story. I don't know, it's a weird movie, but I freaking loved it, and I can't wait for the Blu-ray to come out because I really want to watch it again. I feel like I'm saying that a lot, but it's true. Next at number 3, you knew this was coming, high up on the list, Avengers Endgame. There's been so much said about this movie that I don't really have anything new to say, so I'm just going to say the fact that I loved it. It was a great experience watching it in theaters, seeing the entire MCU that's been built up since 2008 come to a close. It was emotional, heartfelt. I watched it on 4K when the 4K came out, and I was even more touched the second time watching it, or third time, whatever time I watched it when it came out on 4K. The 4K looks awesome, by the way. If you're going to pick it up, definitely get the 4K. A lot of people say they don't like this movie, and that's fine. I don't understand it. For me, Avengers Endgame gave me everything I wanted for this movie and for a Marvel movie in general. At number 2 is the biggest surprise of the year. I thought this movie was going to be terrible. None of the promotional stuff sold me on the movie, but when the movie ended, I absolutely loved Rocketman. Taron Egerton was phenomenal as Elton John. Every cast member was phenomenal in this movie. And I gotta say, this is probably my favorite musical biopic of all time. It has such a big energy to it. And you feel so much for Elton John. And I'm glad this movie was rated R, because rock and roll musicians, they didn't lead a PG-13 lifestyle. No. They lived an R-rated lifestyle. And I'm glad this movie went for an R rating. I've watched this movie multiple times, and I love it every single time. If you haven't seen it, please watch Rocketman. And finally, number 1, my favorite movie of the year. I really had to think about this one, and I was actually surprised that this came out as number 1. But my favorite movie of the year is Joker. Now, the reason why this movie is number 1 for me is because this movie made me think so much about the social commentary that's in this movie. It really affected me. It's a movie that stayed in my mind since the first time I saw it. And then I went to see it a second time, and I loved it even more the second time. It's one of those things that the more I think about, the more I love. And I can't praise that enough. I know it got a lot of controversy, which is pretty freaking stupid. And I know some people aren't sure about checking this movie out because of those controversies, but please, if you have not seen Joker already, I very much recommend it. It's easily my favorite movie of the year, and I can't really say much more that hasn't been said already. I love this movie. Joaquin Phoenix, one go, became my favorite Joker, just by one go. And I can't wait to see if he does another Joker movie. It's weird. It's like I want him to, but I don't want him to. So we'll see what happens in the future, but if they do a sequel and it doesn't end up being good, we'll always have this brilliant movie to look back on. Well, guys, those are my favorite movies of 2019. Do you agree with my list? Do you disagree with my list? Let me know in the comments section your ranking for your favorite movies of 2019. I hope you guys had a great holidays. I hope you'll have a great New Year's. Please be safe out there. And as always, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, click right here. And I'll see you guys next time.